Okay, so I'm just going to give you a rundown. Uh, since I got your message, I've been going over a market assessment and I'm trying to figure out, what really needs to happen for sales of life insurance in my community. Well, the first thing that I thought about was, you know, is your company top of mind in my community? And then I started thinking about what's really top of mind in my community. And I thought, well, how do people get information about what's really top of mind? And it's traditional media. So in my community, the radio stations are still listened to quite a bit by pretty much everyone, regardless of age. And then as far as television, um, television is not a really big player among people under 70. People 70 and over still watch the local news, and everyone else, if they're going to watch anything, they watch Netflix. And what else do they watch? YouTube. YouTube and Netflix are what people watch. So I use YouTube. There's no advertising on Netflix, so it's kind of a dead issue. Um, so on YouTube, I'm targeted every time I go on YouTube. The number one advertiser right now is the government, and it's COVID-19 advertisements. Number one. But before this happened, I was targeted by local car companies to buy cars, and that's the only one that comes to mind. Car companies. So I know the names of the local car companies because not only do they advertise on YouTube, they advertise a lot on the radio. Your company doesn't advertise at all. They don't. Um, they don't advertise on the radio, and they don't advertise on YouTube. And I also get advertisements on my Facebook and on my Instagram, and I don't see your advertisements. So your company is missing the boat from a marketing perspective. So if you were going to take notes, please write down our marketing sucks. And in order to get top of mind awareness, we need to get on radio and we need to get on social media. My first job, I worked for an oil company, a big American oil company. They weren't the biggest American oil companies. They were a second tier. And my first boss, when I said, we should be advertising here. This is a new market. They had moved into my Canadian community. And I said, Esso is, and Petro-Canada are always advertising on the radio and on television. In those days, many years ago, we didn't have the internet. But your major competitors in this town are constantly advertising. And my boss from the second tier, the reason they were second tier was because my boss was a farm boy. He didn't have a marketing degree, and neither did his boss. They were all old school. And he said, I don't believe in advertising, and that was case closed. The reason he wasn't working for Standard Oil, Esso, was I'm sure they wouldn't hire him because he didn't have a marketing degree. And so he ended up at the second tier place. And the reason I wasn't working for Standard Oil or Petro-Canada was they already had sales reps. But this American company was coming into town. They put an ad in the paper. I applied and I got the job. But I had an MBA in marketing, and that's the first thing I said is, we're new in town. We're opening up new gas stations. We need to be top of mind in the consumer's eyes so that they look at their gas tank, they're on empty, they're going to come to us. Nope was the answer. So I'm going to say the lesson that I learned from there was companies that don't want to spend money on advertising, I don't want to work for you because you've just handcuffed me as a sales rep, because you have avoided becoming top of mind in the consumer's mind. So you're making my job even more difficult. So for that reason alone, I would say, no, thank you, I don't want the job. But, I went past this in my analysis because I thought, well, rather than giving you a knee jerk on advertising, I'm going to tell you I'm a great salesperson, because I am. I sold cars, and I was good at it. So I started putting on my car salesman hat, and I started thinking about when I was selling cars in this community, and what lessons could I transfer from being a car salesman. Well, the owner of my dealership said, if someone arrives on our car lot, they're here to buy. In my experience, it was true. It was true. If they didn't buy from you, they were going to buy from someone else. 10% of the people that arrived in the car lot couldn't buy because they were out for a Sunday drive, and they had no intention whatsoever of buying, but they were looking for something to do. So they came to the car lot because it was, instead of going to the park, they came to the car lot. My car dealership was a branded car dealership, and the dealer, the owner of the business, had a second business on the car lot. He had a private used car company, and they were very, very successful because they had a guarantee. Everyone gets financed. How did they do it? They did it with the cooperation of a technological solution. And that was, if someone had really bad credit, a certain finance company would finance the deal with the stipulation that an electronic gizmo go in the car. And the way it worked was, as long as the person made their car payment, the car ran. But if a car payment was missed, a radio signal was sent to the gizmo in the car, and it stopped the car from turning on. So you don't make your payment, your car don't go. Very, very intelligent way of making sure people make their payments. And These were people with very, very bad credit, and very quickly they learned, my car doesn't go. Well, what would they do? They didn't have money. But, so people would gather up money as soon as they could get it and make their payment so their car would go. In my community, people who bought new cars were a lot of senior citizens who had a pension check coming in. And if they weren't senior citizens, they were people who had a good job. My community is very heavily skewed towards older people, 50 and up. My community has experienced a baby bust. So much so that since the time I was in high school, and I just turned 55, when I was in high school in the 1980s, and now we have closed 3 high schools in our community. The baby bust continues. The school board has just built a new school and plans to close 3 elementary schools to be replaced by this new school. So our community has a major drop in population. It's not been put into, the big sign out of town. They haven't changed. They should really get real, because our community's population has dropped considerably. But they're pretending that nothing has happened. Our community has been hollowed out since the 1980s as far as industry goes. Our community used to have a lot of very high-paying industrial jobs. It doesn't anymore. They're whittled away. So people who are in this community don't have the same standard of living that their parents had or their grandparents had. The biggest industries in this community now are, well, for young people, what have I got here? I've got a list of people, a sample. So one young person, about age 30, works seasonally at one of the remaining industrial places, and not seasonally, I don't think he works at all. This young person had a girlfriend, and the girlfriend got pregnant. They broke up, and the girl had an abortion. So those 2 people, about age 30, I'm going to say they're not in the mood for buying life insurance. Next person I've got here is about age 25. She's a single mom, and she works as a personal support worker. Personal support workers make about $40,000 a year, which is about half of what a school teacher makes. At $40,000 a year in my community, with the very high cost of real estate, she cannot afford to live in her own home. So she rents, and the rent in my community is very high. She doesn't own a car, and as much as she probably would think it's a good idea to buy life insurance, she's struggling to make ends meet. In other words, between paying the rent and buying food, buying clothes, she's going to be a hard sell just because she doesn't have the money. PSWs just make a lousy wage. Okay, the next person is about 50 years of age. She had children relatively late in life, maybe starting in 35. Her children are in high school, and she's not going to buy life insurance from me because she bought it. She bought it from one of her friends when she was first married. So she's not a good prospect. She's already got life insurance. She's not going to buy more. So unfortunately, no. The next person on my list is also a single mother. She is First Nations. She's got a low-paying job, and is she going to buy life insurance? She's like the other girl, who's the personal support worker. You might be able to get her to sit down with you. But when the time comes for her to sign on the dotted line, she's probably going to sign. But when it comes time for her to make her payments, she's not going to make her payments. She's not. You can try and set up an automatic payment program for her. It's not going to work because she's got no money in her bank account. And she knows that you've got this thing set up because she's easily swayed into saying yes. But when she gets her paycheck, she's going to arrange to get a paper check, and she's going to go to someplace else other than her regular bank account that she gave us, and she's going to cash her check. And she's going to not call you and say, she's not. And if you call her, she's going to avoid your call. So you're not going to get payments from her. So you're spending an awful lot of time getting her involved, and then she's just not going to pay. She doesn't have the money, and she knows it, but she's too she doesn't know how to say no. She doesn't know how to say no, but once she said yes, she knows how to avoid keeping her commitment. Okay, the next guy is a First Nations guy. He's about 50 years old. He works in early childhood education, which is like a personal support worker's wage, which is about half of what a school teacher makes. If he makes $35,000, I'd be surprised. So let's say he makes $35,000 a year, and then he has side gigs. He's a musician, and because he's First Nations in our geographic district will have him come and play. He makes a good buck when he does get these gigs. He has taken on the job of adopting young First Nations children whose families couldn't look after them. So he's got 10. He's got 10 children that he's looking up after as a foster father kind of thing. So all of his money, he doesn't own a house, he doesn't own a car. All of his money goes towards the children. He's got a very small rental apartment, and his sister helps babysit when he's doing his musician gigs. What kind of a person is he? Is he likely to buy insurance? If he was making more money, he'd be a great client, because he would buy if he had the money, because he's really in love with looking after children that need a father figure. Unfortunately, he doesn't have the money. Every last dime that he's got right now is going towards rent, food, clothing, and whatever other things the children need. And as much as he can see, it'd be a good idea to put something away in case I die. He doesn't have any money in his bank account. He just doesn't have the money. So he's going to say this story. If I had more money, I'd be a great client. I am just unable to. And if I do get more money, what am I going to do? Am I going to go and pay you for life insurance? No. If I can arrange to get more money coming in for me, I'm going to take on another child. Because the child needs a place to live, they need food, and they need a father figure. So my focus is going to be not on buying life insurance. It's going to be the kids who are here growing up now. So, all in all, sorry, much as I thought I would be a good client, I'm not. There's just too many other kids in our community who need a foster father like me. So if I get extra money, that's where it's going towards. Okay, the next person I've got is 50 years old, and her husband left her, and she's got two. One child is 12, the other is 15. She's an insurance agent. She talks to me from time to time about her job. And she has told me that in her insurance agency, they go through a lot of the insurance agents, in other words, the chief of the office. They've gone through quite a few. Why? I don't really know. But what keeps coming up is they're not meeting their targets for life insurance. They're really good. Customers keep coming back for car insurance, for home insurance. Car and home. That's what people are buying. And they had one dedicated person for life insurance, and they left. The agent is supposed to do life insurance, and they keep going through agents. And this lady that I know says no one wants to sell life insurance because it doesn't sell in our community. So, why would I want to try and sell life insurance in our community when there's no advertising for your corporation to get you top of mind and get you people thinking about it? And the people who might be interested because they have children. I mean, when I was 25, one of my friends took over his father's insurance business. And he came up to me when I was 25, and that was the job that I had, working for the oil company. And he said, whatever his pitch was, And I said, no, I don't want life insurance. He said, well, it's a good investment. I said, way back in the day, I'd already invested my money in mutual funds. So I wasn't interested in whole life or term life insurance. I didn't have a wife and a family. So I said, thanks, but no. So in my community, I'm going to give you a freebie. If you're going to sell life insurance and you're not going to spend any money on advertising, then the ideal sales rep for you is going to be a female First Nations lady. Because First Nations people in my community are having more children than anybody else. And the reason you want a female is because she's going to know the moms already. She's already going to have a relationship with these mothers, and she's the most likely to figure out a way to get them to buy. Nobody else in this community is going to be better at selling life insurance than a female First Nations person. So that's who you need to be going after. I used to live in Vancouver. And I'm the wrong person to sell anything in Vancouver. Because I'm the wrong kind of person in Vancouver. I'm white, I'm male, I speak English. In Vancouver, your ideal salesperson is of Chinese extraction or Indian extraction, in other words, from the country of India. Because they speak either a dialect of Chinese or they speak Punjabi. I don't. And among the English-only speaking community, well, I thought about the people that I knew. I knew one lady who had some kids. She was a psychiatric nurse. She couldn't make it in Vancouver because Vancouver is so expensive. So she moved to Kentucky. I knew another lady She had one child. She was a single mom, and she never bought life insurance. She didn't make much money. She did a lot of odd jobs. So this person that was doing various jobs, bouncing from job to job, they weren't good paying jobs, and she's also left Vancouver. I think she moved to Thailand. The next lady that I know in Vancouver, she's got a young child, about 2 years old, and she's got a boyfriend. They rent. She doesn't have any money. I am amazed that I don't know how she does it. I don't know how. I can't fathom how she lives in Vancouver. Somehow she scrounges enough money together between her and her boyfriend for rent, and rent in Vancouver is unbelievably expensive. I don't know if she's getting help from the government. Maybe she's getting help from the government. But she doesn't have any money. And getting her to buy life insurance, she doesn't have it. Her discretionary income is zilch. And if she does have any extra money, she's probably going to buy a bottle of booze. Except she probably doesn't have enough money to buy a bottle of booze because booze is so expensive. So if she does manage to scrape together $30, she's going to take her boyfriend and her child to White Spot, and they're going to have dinner at White Spot. So I'm not going to move back to Vancouver to do anything, because I already tried Vancouver. And you can't make enough money in Vancouver to survive. In my experience as me. So I'm not going to move to Vancouver. And as far as this community here, if I was going to take on a new career, it's not going to be life insurance sales. Thank you very much. Keep looking. Find your First Nations female. That's your sales rep for my community. And thanks for knocking on my door.